My name's Simon Elmer. I'm one of the organisers for the traditional Zaduszki Polish All Souls event at the Polish Military Cemetery in Newark, Nottinghamshire. The wartime Polish military history has been a great passion of mine for many years, from when I was working as a young policeman in West London in the 1980s, when there were many Polish veterans living in my area, and their stories inspired me to become interested with their history. Over the last 12 years or so, I've been involved in the event here, both as a participant and as one of the organisers, and I think Newark has a special place in commemorating that Polish history. There are over 440 military graves which you see around you behind me, most of which are from the Polish Army and Air Force stationed in the United Kingdom during the Second World War. There are also a number of similar graves on the edge of the cemetery and just outside it of other members of the Polish Armed Forces who remained in the UK after the Second World War, and when they died they wished to be buried near to their comrades. For instance, of course, everybody knows that General Sikorski was buried here, along with 3 wartime presidents in exile. Looking on the military history side of it, you have many members of the Polish Air Force who, for example, were killed flying combat operations or during flying accidents. Other people here were killed from different situations, such as road traffic accidents, natural causes, tragically a number of suicides, and even more tragically one young Polish Air Force woman who was murdered. This year, of course, because it's the 80th anniversary of 1945, I invite everybody that's interested in this period and interested in coming to seeing these brave men and women who fought for freedom and sadly never got to see it happen, to come along and pay their respects. The event is Sunday the 26th of October. It starts at 14:30 hours. If you wish to come a little earlier and perhaps help out the Polish Scouts and Guides putting out all the candles and the flowers on the graves, you'd be very welcome to do so. And I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Amongst the graves at Newark lie 26 Polish paratroopers who were killed in a tragic mid-air collision on the 8th of July 1944. A group of American transport planes with the Polish paratroopers on board was moving into formation close to the town of Stamford in Lincolnshire. Tragically, the wings of 2 of the aircraft locked, control was lost of the aircraft, they fell to the ground in flames. All aboard, the American crews, apart from 1 American crewman, and all 26 Polish paratroopers died in the crash. This was a loss which was felt profoundly by the members of the parachute brigade, who had trained together for perhaps 3 or 4 years in Scotland under General Józef before moving to Lincolnshire, and were training for the operation which eventually became Operation Market Garden, the Battle for Arnhem. All 26 lie here at Newark. This is a grave with a tragic story. Sergeant Anastasia Kolinska, aged 26 years, was a female member of the Polish Air Force stationed at Royal Air Force Foldingworth to the north of Lincoln, which was being operated by 300 Mazowiecki bomber squadron. She had a Polish soldier boyfriend. He was jealous, he thought she was having a secret affair. He confronted her about this, he became angry. He took his revolver and he shot her dead at a location on the airfield. He then turned the revolver on himself and committed suicide. To me, I think it's very tragic that 2 people who had had long, difficult and dangerous journeys through the Second World War both ended up with such a tragic end. Another interesting grave here at Newark. Captain Pilot Józef Jeka, originally from the Polish Air Force in 1939, who later flew combat missions as a fighter pilot with the Polish Air Force in Great Britain. At the end of the Second World War, he was recruited as a pilot flying clandestine missions, spy missions for the CIA, missions for them in different parts of the world, possibly over Poland according to some sources. In 1958 he was the pilot of an American B-26 light bomber reconnaissance aircraft which crashed during operations conducted by the CIA over Indonesia. According to his wishes, his body was transported from Indonesia to be here at Newark along with his wartime comrades. Strange story. One of the graves here at Newark was that of an infantry officer from the 3rd Carpathian Rifle Division who was afraid to return to Poland at the end of the Second World War. Towards the end of the war, he was in a military hospital in Newark. He left the hospital, he had a drink in the bar on Lincoln railway station and jumped in front of a train. A tragic story. Some years ago I was walking through the cemetery with a friend and I'd written for a magazine a small ghost story about his death and a haunted railway station in Lincoln. I was stopped standing static with my friend and I said, "I wonder where his grave is." My friend said, "What was his name?" I told him. He said, "You're stood directly by him right now." This is a grave at Newark which holds great significance to me. This is the grave of Jim Orton. Jim, during the Second World War, was a bomb aim and navigator with a specialist British bomber squadron flying from Brindisi in Italy. Amongst his missions included dropping weapons and supplies to partisans, to parachuting secret agents into occupied territory, and flying supply missions over the burning city of Warsaw during the Warsaw Uprising, sometimes as low as 500 feet, 150, 160 meters above the burning city. On one such mission, a flak shell exploded near the aircraft. Some of the plastic from the observer's cabin hit Jim in the eye and ended his flying career. Jim had a great passion about the connections between Britain and Poland from his wartime experiences. He founded the Air Bridge Memorial Committee and the Air Bridge Association, and it was Jim's drive and enthusiasm and passion behind those events which led to the creation of a special memorial obelisk here at Newark, commemorating everybody that fought and lost their lives during the Warsaw Uprising, the soldiers and the officers of the Armia Krajowa on the ground, the thousands of Polish citizens, men, women and children of all ages who lost their lives during the uprising or indeed were murdered by the German forces during the uprising itself, and along with the Polish, British, South African and American supply plane crews who were flying all the way the distance from Brindisi in Italy because the Soviets wouldn't let them use occupied Soviet territory, and sustaining terrible losses flying all the way along the Balkans, over Italy and all the way to Warsaw, with over 37 aircraft with crews being lost during those missions. Jim's buried here along with his wife. He was a wonderful man with a great sense of humour and a deep love for Poland and its people in his heart. On the 28th of September this year at 14:30 there will be a special event here to commemorate the Warsaw Uprising and the air bridge supply flights to it. And again I would invite you warmly to come to the event. Thank you. This is another very interesting Polish military grave at Newark. This is the grave of Roman Chernavski, a spy codenamed Brutus. Originally he trained as a Polish pilot and was later infiltrated into France to work for Polish intelligence with spy and resistance networks. He was captured by the Germans. He told the Germans he would work for them. When he returned to England, of course, he said to Polish intelligence, "You'll never believe what happened." Polish intelligence then used him as a double agent, feeding false information back to the Germans about, for example, the location of the D-Day landings. After the Second World War, he could not return to a communist-occupied Poland. He stayed in England, working as a tobacconist in West London, and when he died, again, by his request, was buried here alongside his wartime comrades at Newark. A fascinating story.